Resuming debate, the Honourable Member Churchill, Kiwana-Newcastle.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to begin by indicating that I'll be splitting my time with my colleague, the MP for Rosemont-La Petite Patrie. I rise today to talk about the desperate need for tax fairness in our country. Canadians are struggling. Workers, people on fixed incomes are struggling. In my constituency, children are struggling and their families. Our northern Manitoba, has the second highest child poverty rate in the country. First Nations and Indigenous communities are living in third world conditions. However, all the while, the rich are getting richer in our country. And this didn't just happen. This is an accumulation of wealth, a hoarding of wealth that is aided and abetted by the federal government's consecutive Conservative and Liberal government's policies that benefit the ultra-rich in their tax avoidance and even tax evasion schemes. But I want to, for a moment, point to the fact that during COVID-19, we saw something very interesting. Two things happened concurrently. A massive reduction in child poverty as a result of COVID-era supports, where the gap between rich and poor, however, the gap between rich and poor grew to historic levels. While most Canadians would choose to further reduce child poverty, this minister and this Liberal government eliminated the benefits that lifted so many out of poverty, but maintained the tax policies that keep so many in it and benefit the ultra-rich. This is shocking, not just because it's the moral thing to do, but it's the popular thing to do, to bring about tax fairness. No one would ever accuse this government of doing things because it's right, but you'd think they do it because it's popular at least. Over 90% of Canadians believe that the ultra-wealthy need to pay their fair share. So my questions today are focused on why is this government failing to act on this front? In fact, 11 years ago, the finance minister wrote a book calling attention to the concentration of wealth into a new billionaire class. My question to the minister is, does the minister know what percentage of wealth created in the last 10 years has gone to the richest 1% in Canada?
The Honourable Minister.
Well, I'd like to thank the member opposite for her question. Madam Chair, I actually had been intending to mention plutocrats, so I'm glad the member opposite got there before me. Look, I do agree with many of the core assertions the member opposite has made. I agree that tax fairness is really important. And
Hear an answer. The answer is 34%. 34% of wealth created in the last 10 years went to the richest 1%. There's a preamble that's allowed.
Point of order.
My understanding is that both the questioner and the answer have the same amount of time. So in this case, it seems like a bit of an imbalance.
Question to the minister was this, so it starts from when she said that the question to the minister. There's a preamble there, and then if they're clear as to when their question starts, then it's from when the questions start. The honourable member.
And I repeat, there was no answer to the question. 34% of wealth created in the last 10 years went to the richest 1% of Canadians, and only 5% to the poorest 50%. So my question is, why is this minister and her government upholding the same plutocratic systems that the minister's book criticizes?
Honourable Minister.
the answer is we're not. We are the government that introduced a luxury tax on luxury cars, planes, and yachts. We're the government that introduced the Canada Recovery Dividend of 15% on banks and insurance companies. We've permanently raised the corporate income tax by 1.5% on the largest, most profitable banks and insurance companies. These are real, concrete, meaningful measures to...
The honourable member.
And my answer to that is that's nowhere near enough, given the accumulation of wealth we are seeing, the kind of accumulation we haven't seen before in our country. Let's turn to the climate crisis. Canadians expected leadership from this government, but they've been sorely disappointed. This government has instead offloaded their climate transition plan onto our tax code, preferring to line the pockets of wealthy CEOs by investing $80 billion in tax credits for the ultra-wealthy. How can this minister guarantee that the tax credits will go to actual decarbonization?
The honourable minister.
I have to say, Madam Chair, I'm surprised to hear the tax credits being attacked by the member opposite. They are strongly supported by our union colleagues with whom we consulted extensively in the design of these tax credits. And these tax credits are going to do a double job. They're going to help build a clean economy in Canada, and they are going to help create good paying middle class jobs.
Remember.
Turning to multilateral action that this government so-called is a fan of, this Liberal government guaranteed that the global minimum tax would come into effect by 2024. Yet they haven't even begun to start the process that would implement a tax on multinational profits in every country they're made, continuing a long tradition by the Liberal Party of coddling large multinational corporations. Can this government guarantee that there will be a minimum tax on international corporations by 2024?
Minister.
Absolutely, and we were clear about that in the budget. I believe the member opposite is referring to OECD Pillar 2, and we were very clear in the budget that we will be implementing Pillar 2.
Yes, I am referring to Pillar 2, and I'm wondering how the minister could guarantee a movement in 2024 when no public agreements and certainly timelines that have been committed to so far have actually been met. How is Canada going to move forward in 2024 when nothing that should have been done by now has been done?
Minister.
Madam Chair, that is simply inaccurate. The Pillar 2 agreement came together recently. Canada was at the table as it came together. Canada is fully committed to implementing that, and we are working very closely with our international partners, including in the EU, on the implementation. It's a priority for us.
Member has 1 minute.
And quickly, speaking of what others are doing, the U.S. passed a book profit tax as part of the Inflation Reduction Act that's already generating revenue. If Canada had a 15% minimum tax on book profits in 2021, it would have generated $1.4 billion in revenue annually. Why is this government dragging behind the U.S. and letting corporations get out of paying their fair share of taxes?
The Honourable Minister.
Madam Chair, I actually believe that Canada is ahead of the U.S. in many crucial respects, certainly when it comes to a price on pollution, certainly when it comes to our tax on share buybacks, where our level is higher, and President Biden has said he regrets setting his level as low as he has done.
15 seconds left. The Honourable Member.
My riding, as I mentioned, has consistently one of the highest child poverty rates in the country. Why won't the government make COVID-era benefits permanent, which would make poverty history?
Honourable Minister, a very brief answer.
Madam Chair, we are proud to be the government that lifted 435,000 Canadian children out of poverty. There's more work to do, and we're committed to doing it.